Greetings and welcome to Hexed Encountered. I'm Joe. In this video, we will be taking a first look at Napoleon's Counterstrike. This is the latest from the Library of Napoleonic Battles, designed by Kevin Zucker and available from Operational Studies Group. This is volume 16, and it covers the War of Liberation. It is the second part thereof, and it covers the battles of Lovenburg, Dresden, and Württemberg. And I'm going to flip it over here, and we're going to actually rip the shrink off now and then check out what's on the back of the box. Okay, so here you see volume 16, Napoleon's Counterstrike. It's in August to October of 1813. Stalemate on the Elbe. Lovenburg here, a game of cat and mouse, 21-22 August. Then we have Dresden, the attack from Bohemia, from the 26th to the 27th of August. And finally, Württemberg, which was Blücher's river crossing on October 3rd. So this is obviously it's from Operational Studies Group. We've got 4 full-size 22 by 34-inch maps, as well as an 11 by 17-inch map. Scenario folder of 24 pages that includes campaign analysis and designer notes, 24-page rulebook, 2 counter sheets with 560 counters, 15 player aid cards, and the optional universal decks are not included. If you have, I'm trying to remember which game it is, but some of the older games have it. I have the Napoleon against Russia game, and it does have it in that, so I have the deck. You can purchase it separately from OSG. So this is the most recent release. I received it while I was on vacation. And I decided to do a first look because first looks are, well, there's 2 reasons. One, first looks are easier to do than playthroughs. I'm sure you can figure that out. It's not an overly complicated thought. The other reason is I've really been looking forward to playing for the channel one of these OSG games. I do only have 2, and the Napoleonic campaign in Russia has always been something I've been interested in, so that was the first one I picked up, and I have not even yet played it. But since this just came and it's brand new, that's always a good opportunity to do a first look video. So let's take a look at what's inside the box here. We've got our counters right on top. So we'll take a look here at sheet number 1. Right, so up here we've got some leaders, some French leaders. We've got Ney, Napoleon, MacDonald, de Rosnell, Marmont, Victor, etc. Right. Then we have units here, as you can see. Some artillery, some infantry, some light cavalry, etc., etc. Colored by corps, I think. Yes, 3rd Cavalry Corps right here. Up here we have 2nd Corps, etc., etc., right? So they are double-sided, as you would expect. Now the leaders would have a flag on their reverse. And then the counters obviously would be reduced versions, the full strength on the other side. You can see these are all our French leaders. We do have some other units here. We've got the Polish. We've got, these are the guard units. Polish, Württemberg, Italians, etc. Then we got some markers here for weather, repulse, roadblocks, road march, overruns, in command, with the inverse being out of command, charge. You can see square here, and of course our turn marker with Prussia on one side and France on the other side. Excuse me. Counter sheet 2. This would be the other side of the fence, so to speak. We've got Prussian forces. We've got some Russians here at the top. Plenty of Russians. Then we've got Prussians down here at the bottom. There's Blücher. We've got York, Kleist, Gneisenau, and Muffling as well. And then over here, we've got some more Prussians up top. including Schwarzenberg and Liechtenstein. You've got some Austrians and their units. And again, small markers. You've got a reinforcement delay, bridge repair, etc. Demoralized. On the other side, you can see we've got the Prussian markers and the Russians. They're the same, actually. So maybe that's just the coalition. It just marks the coalition. All right. Now we have maps. I'm going to save that for last. Let's get the books out and the player aids and look at that. We will start with the series rules here. So we've got an introduction. The game is a 2-player simulation of Napoleonic battles at the grand tactical level. You can play each game as an individual set piece or undertake a campaign consisting of several battles played in sequential order. So the inventory, how to get in touch with OSG. Rule books. This rule book contains the basic rules that apply to each game. The study folder contains special rules, scenario information, historical commentary, and design notes. All rules about the play of cards are in the optional booklet of card instructions. And we've got the playing pieces and how to read the units. Here are some examples of said units. So you can see you've got the commander, Napoleon. He's got his command points and his movement allowance. And you have some officers here. Command designation, that's second corps, his initiative rating, and his movement allowance. Then we have some combat units. So you see there, we've got a unit ID, a command designation, combat strength, initiative, the movement allowance, its size, its unit type, and its number of vedettes. And down here, you've got other types. We've got infantry, heavy cavalry, vedettes, artillery, and horse artillery. And we've got some markers here: failed repulse, out of supply, control and demoralized, out of command, in command, pontoon train, baggage train, burnt bridge, and turn markers. Here's our sequence of play. So you have a day game turns and night game turns. In the day, for the first play, you'd have the start phase with the weather segment to determine whether you roll on the weather table on the first turn of each day, and at other times as determined by the weather duration die roll, which that would account for weather changing in the course of a day, which of course happens all the time. Card segment, which is an optional, and it's in section 24. Then we've got the command phase with the supply segment, the recovery segment, the reorganization segment, our command segment, where you remove all of your out-of-command markers. And the phasing player allocates his command points, placing officers in combat units that are within range in command. Then our phasing player may attempt to place formations that did not receive a command point in command by rolling against the officer's initiative rating, which we saw in here. You can see the example has a -4. Then we have out-of-command markers would then be placed on all forces that are not in command, and pontoon bridges may be reconfigured. Then we have our movement phase. The command movement phase, the phasing player may move all of his forces that are in command or under a march order, reference to another rule at 20.1. Reinforcements enter at this time. Units may attempt to repulse enemy units out of the way. Okay, initiative movement. Phasing player can now attempt to move combat units that are out of command. So you would roll against the unit's initiative rating and then moves if it passes. Roll, move. A die roll equal to or less than this rating permits the unit to move up to its full movement allowance. However, the unit is still considered out of command and keeps its out of command marker. If the die roll is greater than its initiative rating, the unit may not move. Then we have our combat phase. And combat involves determination of line of sight, cavalry retreat step. Defending cavalry, horse artillery, and vedettes may retreat before combat. After defending units have retreated, attacking cavalry may also retreat before combat. We have an artillery reaction fire, where the non-phasing player will execute bombardment. Bombardment strength may be reduced by counter battery fire. We have our attack declaration step, where the attacker has to declare which friendly units are attacking which enemy units. Then there's a phasing player bombardment, And counter battery fire would apply there as well. Artillery that was suppressed or retreated in step 2A may not bombard now. So if you used your, or rather, if you were suppressed or had to retreat during the reaction fire from the artillery, you would not be able to use it during the bombardment step. That, of course, makes sense as well. Cavalry charge step, the combat step, and then the second line of sight step. If opposing forces remain engaged, which means adjacent after combat, they remain revealed. Forces no longer in an enemy line of sight are again hidden. We have the second player turn, which is essentially the same. You've got command, movement, combat, and game turn marker, which is when you would advance to the next turn. For night game turns, it's a little bit different. First and last game turns of each 24-hour period are night turns. Night PM comes before night AM. That kind of makes sense if you think about it, since the day begins at midnight, which is, of course, in the middle of the night for most locations. The differences between night and day are summarized below. The player turns in a night turn are reversed, so the second player resolves first. There's no weather segment. Weather for the night depends on the last daylight turn's weather. Start phase is different, 2.2 A, which we'll see around the page here. And then only units under march orders may move. There is a disengagement phase, 2.2A1. There is no night combat phase. And you have rules for the start phase, the march order dispatch phase in the night AM turns. So we're coming on towards morning here. Night march phase, and then your first player turn, which comprises A to C above and D, which is the game turn marker phase. Stacking rules, stacking limits, restrictions, etc. Zone of control rules. The 6 hexes surrounding a combat unit comprise its zone of control. That's pretty standard. All combat units and vedettes exert a zone of control at all times, even into a hex occupied by an enemy unit. Leaders, pontoon, and baggage trains do not have ZOCs. If a friendly combat unit is in an enemy ZOC, that's an EZOC, the opposing units are equally and mutually affected by the other's zone of control. And we have terrain effects for it, how it affects movement, how it affects combat, etc. I'm not going to go too deep into the rules. I did want to go through the sequence of play because that's generally the first thing that most people want to know is how is a turn resolved. So I did that. The rest of this we're just going to kind of skim. Leaders, they perform 4 important functions. They place combat units in command, which of course is very important. They can reorganize eliminated units. They facilitate the advance after combat of more than one combat unit. And they facilitate stacking, which we'll get more detail on when we play the game. You have types of leaders. You've got a commander, such as Napoleon, an officer, and a commander officer, who basically is both. Leaders and their effect on zones of control, leaders in combat, etc. Command segment goes in detail about the command segment. Command range, which is obviously an important element of that, your initiative, checks, etc. Movement rules, basics, your movement points. Each hex costs a number of movement points. This is fairly standard as well. As you would expect, terrain will have impact on your how many movement points it costs you to move. All movement point costs are cumulative. Unused movement points may not be saved up or loaned, etc. Again, very sensible. Cavalry costs. Minimum movement. A unit may never expend more movement points than its movement allowance in a single movement phase. However, if the cost of the first hex and hex sides exceeds the printed movement allowance of the unit, it may move into the hex and end its movement for that turn. So that's kind of the one, you can always move one hex kind of thing unless it's prohibited terrain, like moving into the ocean or something. Movement restrictions, road march, the road march rules, bridges and trestles. Then we've got our hidden forces rules, obscuring hidden forces. Then you've got your repulse rules here. Combat, nicely summarized here in one page. Combat modifiers and how that works. Staking guard units. Napoleon has his own little subsection here. Combat results. Here's our shock table. You've got retreats here. You've got, of course, examples, which are always welcome. Retreat rules, advance after combat. UAR and PEU boxes. And we've got bombardment rules for artillery units, the procedure, cavalry charges, as you would expect, fortified places, vedettes, and then supply, of course. Supply is important. Baggage and pontoon trains, another example down here. Pontoon bridges, reinforcements, stacking and road march with another example. March orders, what that means and how it's executed. Then we've got demoralization and its impact on the game, its effects, etc. How you rally, how it affects supply, how it affects units under march orders, recovery and reorganization, and then weather, and then our glossary and index. So those are the rules. Now here we have the specifics here for this. This is the folder that was mentioned earlier. So here you have information about this specific entry in the series. So you see it picks up at 25 with the scenarios. So you get a situational update here, scenario information for all the various things. You can do a grand campaign, etc. So I won't go too detailed into this. We'll talk about this more when we actually play. Here's victory conditions. Then we have the individual battles. Lovenberg, Goldberg, Kotzbach, the August campaign. So there are more scenarios than the 3 battles that are listed on the cover, of course. Battle of Dresden, Battle of Wartburg, and then the Grand Campaign game. The Grand Campaign requires the game equipment for 3 volumes from the Library of Napoleonic Battles, involving 15 battles in date order. Start with the Lutzen ATB setup or with any other setup referencing the campaign. So the games that you would need to have would be from Napoleon's Resurgence, 4 Lost Battles, Napoleon at Leipzig, and this one, basically. So historical notes from Kevin Zucker. You can see they are quite extensive and probably a very interesting read. And then design notes, also from Kevin Zucker. And then you've got information on the various battles, which maps are used, etc., as well as the terrain, the front line, the rivers, the date of the battle, the French leaders, French strength, your coalition leaders, coalition strength, French losses, coalition losses, etc. So very, very interesting stuff. List of the battles in this time frame in autumn of 1813. You can see list here, and the asterisk ones are in the library. So they're all but 4, looks like. And the CRT notes here, notes for the combat, the CRT, the bombardment, the charge table, shock table. And then we've got those tables right here on the back. All right. Now we've got our player aids here. So we have a turn record track. This is Lovenberg, Goldberg. Let's do that. Let's do it. Let's flip it over. Kotzbach, Dresden Pirna, Extended Battle Retreat, Wartburg. And then here, these are always cool to look at. So you have the Le Grand Armée with the unit names and all the information about these units here and where they appear in the battles. So you have multiple sheets here of this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think that's the last one. Yeah, so 7 sheets of information for all the units in the game and where they appear in the various battles. Casualty record tracks, how to use the casualty record tracks. Down here we have a CRT again, single-sided. And we have one for the coalition. So that was the French. This is the coalition. Then we have combat tables. Again, with the notes from the folder here on this as well. Holding boxes, full strength and reduced. So you have eliminated, permanently eliminated, and then you can ready for make them reorganization, make them available to return. Weather table. So you can see your weather here. You've got various things. You've got thunderstorms, rain, mud, fog, and fair. And the effects that they have on the units. French Fog of War Index. So these would be the cards that are used for Fog of War cards in the French deck, etc. I'll show you the cards because I will use them when I play this. And here are the Coalition Fog of War cards. And here are the rules for the cards, adding the cards, section 24. It's fairly short. You've got your universal card manifest here at the bottom. These are a list of the games and what battles are in there. Then the more combat tables. Here's our terrain effects chart, as well as some of the other things here, other command, range, leader, capture. So this is a nice handy dandy summary. And then order slips that you can photocopy. There is an abbreviated sequence of play here on the back, as you can see. And of course, we have our victory worksheet and a slip of paper here that says inspected by Caveman Andy. Napoleon Counterstrike update from February 4th. So this is just a couple of little notes and corrections here. And these are the cards that you would be pulling out of the deck if you're using the cards for each of the battles in the box. So there you have it. That is Napoleon's Counterstrike, the War of Liberation Part 2. Oh, you know what I didn't do? I didn't look at the maps. Let's bust into the maps here. So here we have, this is the Battle of Goldberg. And let me reset my shot here. Okay, so I kind of turned it sideways so you could see it better. You can also see my legs. Anyway, but here, here's the map for the Battle of Goldberg. And it is, as I said, oriented sideways. So it is a little bit different. Goldberg is here. And you've got the Schnelle Deichsel here. Pilgrimsdorf, Harpersdorf, Steinberg. So we got one major river running through here. Haynau is up here. Toppendorf, Alzenau, Gröditzburg. Here we have a slightly smaller map. This is the 11 by 17 for the Battle of Württemberg, which is right here in the center. You can see they've got a Schloss here. Schloss Gartenberg. Here's the Elbe. Elster, Liesterfedra, Ferda, Liesterferda. The Große Sau, Dabrun, Melzwig, Bietegast, Globig, Bleden. You can see how the terrain features are, right? You've got your marshy areas here, some light forest, etc. Your road net, the bridges, etc. The maps are very nice. The maps, of course, done by Charles Kibler, who does great work on maps. He's one of the best out there. This is a good small example of his work. Here we have the map for the Battle of Löwenberg, a game of cat and mouse. So this, here's Löwenberg right here. Right, you've got Ludwigsdorf over here, Holstein, Sergovitz, Gross Rockwitz, And of course, we do again have the river going through here. This is the Bober coming down all the way along here. You can see Boonslau up here, fairly large kind of crossroads there. A lot of roads converging in that particular town. And you've got various forests here, Holsteiner Wald. We've got the Löwenberger Forest here. Löwenberger Wald over here. It's got some elevation. You can see all the elevation here. This is a fairly hilly / mountainous region, as you can tell by all the elevation marks here. Again, really nice work by Charles Kibler in kind of showing all the terrain in an easily recognizable form. You don't get bogged down trying to figure out what everything is. You can tell pretty quickly by looking right at it. Really well done. So this is the battle for the Battle of Löwenberg, or Lowenberg, if you want to say it the way the English or the Americans would say it. And we've got here, this is Dresden, I'm guessing, yes, because Dresden's right there, right smack dab in the middle. So here is Dresden. And you can see Dresden is fairly large. And again, this is the Elbe here, running through Dresden. Or Dresden runs right past it. You got Neustadt on this side of the river, and of course Dresden on this side. You can see the lines for the fortifications of the city wall. And then of course all the surrounding area. You got some somewhat open terrain here. We got a hill here, the Gamig Hübel, Bergstattel. I could just stare at these maps forever. I love the maps; they're beautiful. Anyway, so this is the map for Dresden, and I think we have one more to look at here. And that one is this guy right here, which is, as you can see, the Battle of Katzbach. So let's take a quick peek at this guy. So here's Katzbach. The nice thing is none of these maps are so enormous that you can't get it out on your table. I'm always appreciative of that. Monster games are very attractive to me, but they are difficult to set up sometimes. So here's Liegnitz over here, and again, you can see the city wall. Again, we've got rivers going through here. This again would be the Schnelle Deichsel up here. And then over here, we've got, what river is this? Oh, the Katzbach River. And then over here is the Wuthender Neisse. So, all right. So this would be the Katzberg map. Again, you can see the elevation, the ridges, the forests. We've got a large forest down here, the Monkswald. Yeah, a lot of them here. A lot of forest down in this area, and relatively hilly forest as well. You can see elevations even within the forest, which is also pretty cool. Some marshy areas, lots of water, bridges, etc. So that is the Katzbach map, which is the fourth full-size map, and we do have the one small map. So that, as they say, is that. Thank you for watching. This again is Napoleon's Counterstrike from Kevin Zucker, Operational Studies Group. This is volume 16 of the Library of Napoleonic Battles, and it covers the second part. It is the second part of the War of Liberation, covering the period of August to October 1813. That's going to do it for now. Please consider liking, sharing, and or subscribing. If you are a subscriber, I greatly appreciate that. Thank you very much for your support. Even if you are not a subscriber and choose not to like or share the video, hopefully you'll come back and check out something else down the road. But that is going to do it for now. I'm Joe. This is Hexed Encountered. And until next time, as always, happy gaming.